Thank you, everybody, and welcome. I might have met a couple of you, but maybe not everybody. So I'm Jodie Lutz. I'm the new heading up the enterprise sales group for Ziplet. And Nick, I believe everybody has probably met Nick before, and Nick and I are going to be taking you through our new Ziplet Snippets series that we're hoping to run once a quarter for everybody. So it's going to be a very brief 20-minute update on what Ziplet's been doing. So thank you all for joining us today. So welcome our new webinar format. What we're going to be covering in these 20, 25-minute formats is providing you with the latest updates of what Ziplet has been doing with our solution, walking you through how to use the latest tools, and giving you some best practice ideas of how to level up your student check-ins and the importance of student checking in. But just because there may be some people here who don't know who we are, I thought I'd just give you a brief overview of who Ziplet is and where we are today. This is 30 seconds. So today, you may not realize, but Ziplet actually has over 62,000 teachers using us right around the globe. With just in Australia, those teachers are within just over 30 now tertiary institutions. And globally, we've got over 200 tertiary institutions actually using Ziplet for their student check-ins in 80 countries. Now that's quite a long way that Ziplet's come over the last few years, and it's even really increased in the last 2 months that I've been with Ziplet. And just like to showcase some of our enterprise accounts, and I'm sure many of you are from these accounts that we look after, and being Swinburne, GoTAFE, and the Alfred. So thank you to our enterprise customers who are here today, and let's move into talking about the two new features that we're going to be looking at. So just in the last, since I've joined, the last couple of months, we've released this amazing feature that we've called Speed Dial. And what actually Speed Dial is this single button now when you go into as a teacher to start a class that gives you the three main things that you would actually be doing within the Teacher Ziplet platform. And those three things, which are really simple, is asking a question, creating a class from scratch, or importing a class. And of course, we have the features now where you can import a class from either Google or Microsoft, and also importing a class is now available through a majority of LMSs or student information systems. So your learning management system or your student information system. Now, what this single button enables a teacher to do, because we know teachers are time poor, is it doesn't just allow you to ask a question of a single class as it did historically, but you can actually ask a question of multiple classes, keeping that question consistent across all the classes that you're running the questions through Ziplet. And why have we done this? One of the things that I'm really impressed with is that the way that Ziplet and the customer success team and everybody at Ziplet really engages with teachers and asks teachers, what are you needing more from our solution? That's why we built this. We understand that teachers are very time poor, and we wanted to create a functionality within the system that not only promoted consistency across all classes, but also made it quicker, faster, and more efficient for teachers to be able to ask questions across all the classes that they run during a semester or a year. And that then provides them with consistency and feedback with the students. So the best practice tip with using Speed Dial is that it's consistent in how you check in across all classes. Asking the same question across all the classes that teachers are running, they then get the feedback, they can analyze that feedback quickly and react proactively. The next feature that we have developed and is already active in the product is quick reactions. And this one is all about closing that conversational loop with students. So quick reactions, previously the way a teacher, as you would know if you use the platform, would react to a student's response was by sending them a text response back. And that took time. You had to think about your response. You had to think about what you were writing. Quick reactions gives you the ability to choose one of 6 purpose positioned emojis, I guess you could say, that will allow a teacher to really quickly respond to a student's response. And that's all about closing the loop with a student. When you ask a student a question and a student responds, the student wants acknowledgement back quickly that their voice has been heard, that somebody's actually listened to them. So by either selecting one particular student's response, or like you could previously, you can select multiple responses and respond with the same emoji. That gives you the time back that you've acknowledged that student, and then later you can go back and really understand what the student's response to the question was, and maybe respond to them in a text response, and keep that conversation going. So it's a simple and effective way of acknowledging students' responses. And why did we build this? Again, listening to what teachers were looking for, and again, understanding that time is very precious. And it's really about acknowledging student is an essential part of closing that check-in loop with them. And it's by simply acknowledging with a micro result, such as an emoji, can give that student the feeling that they're very engaged with their teacher, and that people are listening and that they care. So quick acknowledgement frees up time for teachers and students to be able to focus more on those students that are really requiring the support that you're wanting to give them. So that's a high-level overview of the 2 new features that we've developed and are now available in the solution. I'm now going to hand over to Nick, and he's going to show you actually in action how they work. Thanks, Nick.
Perfect. Thank you, Jody. I'll just pause my screen for a second while I bring that up.
May I ask a question? Just in
Sorry,
relation,
Janet.
Sure, Janet.
Just in relation to asking students questions, is it possible that more than one teacher can log into one class?
Great question. Absolutely. I'll quickly show you that while we're here.
Okay, cool.
A few teachers actually do use this function. So if you do have joint accountability for a class, if you click on the menu item for that specific class, and then jump into manage members.
Right.
You can see here for our class, we already have 2 teachers here, but if you needed to add somebody, you can always click on invite.
Okay, cool.
Email.
Yeah.
One thing to keep in mind is if you invite somebody else to a class that you've created, they could then theoretically jump in and remove you from that class as well. So they will have equal rights to you in terms of ownership and control of that class. But yeah, absolutely. You can do that if you need to, Janet.
I convene some courses, so it would be handy to be able to set up and also throw some questions out to students in between times. Yeah, so thank you.
No worries.
Sorry to interrupt. I just thought it was a good point to ask it.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, thanks for asking that question, Janet. What we'll do now is we'll quickly run through the features that Jody just explained, so you can see exactly how they work, and a couple of use cases or scenarios just to get you thinking about how you might be able to best apply them to your students in your classes as well. So first of all, we'll use the speed dial up here to create a class. Hopefully everyone's familiar with this process overall. It hasn't changed much except for the initial speed dial option. So simply choose create a class. For today, we'll use a connect class, which will probably apply for most of you on the call today. For anyone who is coming from a school, so primary or high school, you might also have Go enabled as well. But we'll grab connect for today. And today we'll set up our new media studies for 2022. We'll grab our segment that it belongs to, click create, and job done. So I'm sure everyone on the call's made a number of classes in the past. The only difference now for creating that class in the first instance is that button now lives under the speed dial. So hopefully really quick and easy for everybody. Now we'll go through the process of quickly creating a question using speed dial. One way is going to be, again, very familiar to everybody, but the second way that we'll run through, we'll bring in the new feature that Jody mentioned, with the ability of asking a question once, but sharing it to more than one class at a time. So again, back on our speed dial button, all we need to do is click on ask a question. We can choose the class that we want to send that question to. So I'll grab our brand new media studies class. We'll click next. We'll grab a question from our list here. So how well do I explain the learning goals for each class? Great one for starting off any new students that you're teaching. As always, we've got our response types pre-selected for us. So we'll use those ones for now. And in this instance, what we might do actually is we'll schedule this one for later. So we'll prepare the question, we'll have it sitting in our media studies class, but we won't launch it to our students just yet. We'll have it sitting there ready to go until the moment that we're ready to ask the question. And we might not know right now when that minute is. And of course, always useful to enable the option for allowing students to respond anonymously. As a reminder, we do see about a 20 to 25% increase in student responses when they're given that option to choose to respond anonymously as well. So I'll hit save, and we'll have that question prepared and ready to go. So hopefully everyone's fairly familiar and comfortable with that question creation process. The only difference now being, rather than asking a question by clicking on a button that used to be on the class, everything's contained in that speed dial for you. Now we'll run through the process again, but we're going to set up a question, and we're going to ask that question of both our media studies and our visual design class. So we'll click on ask a question once more. And this time we'll select both of our classes. So they're both highlighted in purple with our little check items here. We'll grab a question from our favorites. So what is your top priority for the learning year? Click next. This one's a text-based question, nice and easy. And we're going to ask this question now. So we'll launch it immediately to both of our classes. And there we go. So in a couple of clicks, we set up a question, and we've now got a brand new question here in our media studies, and a second question live here in our visual design class as well. So I'll pause there for a second, see if there's any thoughts, any questions, or hopefully that is nice and easy for everyone.
I do have a question. So as results come through, is there a way that we can see the sort of aggregated results from all those different groups in one place?
Yeah, good question, Wednesday. So when you ask the question, it's one action to set the question up, but then it will be separate questions that belong in those individual classes. So if we wanted to check those learning preference results from those students, we'd need to jump into each class and look at them individually. Really good question though. Jody, maybe something we can share with Cam as well. I think there could be something there.
I think so.
Perfect. Alrighty. So what we'll do now is we'll have a look at the next feature that Jody touched on before, which is the quick React emoji React responses and how you can close the loop with your students really quickly as well. So we'll jump into our visual design class. We've got 13 responses to a question we asked earlier. So we checked in to see how well our students understood today's lesson and if there's something that we'd like to review next time. So we'll click into here. Now, hopefully the functionality should be fairly familiar to everyone, but I'll just show you a few different ways that we can use the emoji reacts in hopefully the most efficient ways possible. So first of all, because we have an emoji-based question, we can always use these columns to filter down our responses. So for example, we might want to have a look at those that are feeling not so clear on things. And we can filter down to Hamish, to Pip, and this anonymous person here. We can always select all. Because these students are feeling a little bit uncertain, we might want to give them a bit of guidance. So a bit more of a thorough response might be necessary, or a text-based response, as Jody mentioned before. So we can always click on the Select All button. So respond to these 3 students. And in this case, I will give them a text-based response. So we'll click on Reply. And we might say, thanks for your response. Please come and see me after class. Now, when we do send this message to Hamish, to Pip, and that anonymous student, do keep in mind that it does send the message as a one-to-one. So it's not a group message between those 3 students. Hamish will think that you've responded to him individually. The anonymous student, we won't actually know who we're speaking to, but they'll get that message asking to see them after class as well. So we might shoot that through to these 3 students. And then we can see we've closed the loop with those 3. Now, for the students that are feeling like they understood the lesson really well and are flying ahead, we might select those 3 as well. We'll use the Select All function again. And this time we're going to give them a 100%. So a quick recognition to say, there we go. Sorry, my demo account doesn't seem to be complying right now, which is usually the way. But you in your accounts, you can select all, hit that 100% and close the loop with Ava, with Shannon and Will, and say, congratulations, you're on the right track. Great stuff. And the last thing we'll have a quick look at as well is, depending on the question that you've asked, we can always use the word cloud as well. So maybe there's a certain keyword, it might be the right response, or it could be something that's not quite on track. So you can always jump in here. We might have a look at white space, narrow that down. That's apologies, my demo account's not really complying with me right now, but you normally can filter it down to that particular word, and again, use the select all, or even select specific students that you might want to respond to out of that filtered list, and give them an emoji or a text-based response as well. So I'll pause there for a second. With the demo account aside, any thoughts, questions, or maybe ways that you think this will be useful for you in closing the loop with your students and making sure that they feel heard and acknowledged? Cool, perfect. All righty, so we'll jump back into the slides, just a couple more before we wrap up today's session as well. And resume share. So now that we've run through those 2 features, hopefully not too much of a deviation from what you're familiar with already in Ziplet, but starting to see a couple of examples of how you might be able to think about your student journey, engage with your students in a more consistent way with less effort, and also close the loop and make sure your students feel like they've been acknowledged and heard for the feedback they've shared with you. But we'll wrap up with a couple of examples just to, there we go, just to help you think about some ways that you might be able to use these features to their fullest potential with your students as well. So the first one is around understanding your students' learning preferences. So when you're starting out with a new class of students, start of the year or semester, you could use that speed dial function to ask one question, send it to all of those new students, whether you've got 2 classes or 10 classes. Maybe ask them a question such as, what is your preferred learning style? A really good one to use with a multiple choice response type. So you might find if you've got some visual learners, some kinetic learners, and start to get a sense of what the breakdown of your students is as you start that new learning journey with them as well. The other one is being prepared for timely check-ins. So using that example that I showed before of where we set up a question, but we saved it for later. Sometimes there might be a particular moment in a class that you want to ask a question, and asking it before the class begins, or maybe setting a time in the future might miss the impact of the question. So using save later will allow you to ask some questions that might be really good conversation starters or help direct where a class goes to. So you can always set up and save those questions, and then with a simple click, launch it when the moment is right. And the last one is thinking about your own professional development and improving your teaching practice. And so I'm sure everyone's familiar with the feature of being able to set up a question and then have it automatically repeat or recur over a cadence and for a time period that you set as well. So a little bit like maybe buying something online and then a couple of days later you forget about it, but a package arrives at your door and you get a little bit of a surprise. You could always think about setting up one or two questions that recur on maybe a fortnightly or even a monthly basis with your students, just to get a little bit of feedback that might be reaffirming the things that you're doing well, or maybe a little bits of incremental feedback that give you some reflection on how you might do things a little bit differently. So for example, you could think about asking questions such as, what is one thing that you appreciate about my teaching? And then maybe have another question running as well, which is one thing that I could do a little bit differently about my teaching, and use that as an opportunity for that continuous feedback to come through without any extra effort or time on your behalf as well. And just a little best practice reminder as well for when it does come to closing a loop, particularly if you are asking those questions in terms of what you could be doing differently or the things that you should lean into more, is you can use those filters to narrow down to those students and respond in scale. So give their emoji reaction or thank them with a quick message, and one or two actions on your behalf is a really easy way to then get across all of your students quickly and easily as well. And so that is everything that we wanted to take you through this term with new features and benefits that we've rolled out at Ziplet. And hopefully it's been really useful for you to better understand some of these new tools and maybe get some ideas or thoughts on how you can best apply them and maximize the value that you get out of them with your students as well. But we do have a quick ask of everyone. We like to turn the mirror on ourselves, and we'd love to close the loop by asking you a couple of questions about how you found today's session. There's just 3 that we have set up in a Go class for you. Jodie's popped a link into the chat, which you can click on. Otherwise, if you navigate to ziplet.com/go, it'll ask you for that 6-digit code. So a very similar experience to what your students see, 586702. We'd appreciate if you do have a couple of minutes to let us know what you thought of today and help us improve these sessions as well. And while you're responding to those questions, if there are any thoughts or any questions for Jodie and I, more than happy to take those as well. And of course, if there's no other thoughts or questions, feel free to drop off. It's now 4 minutes to 5, so the end of the day for most of us. But on behalf of Jodie and I, we do appreciate everyone taking a bit of time out of your day today. We hope it was valuable for you, and we really appreciate your attendance today. But Jodie and I will stick around for any questions that do pop up. Otherwise, feel free to drop off if you need to, and thank you again for coming.
Have a good evening, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Jodie.
Pleasure, Charlene. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Charlene.
See you next time. I'll log in and do my feedback.
Yeah, beauty.
Great.
No
Thank
rush.
you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
See you next time. Bye.
Lauren, you're the last one standing. Any thoughts or questions about today, or is it about time to knock off and enjoy a midweek drink?
Thank you for a fantastic update. Up until this update, really, Ziplet hasn't had much to offer me. This year I've taken on the role in learning support.
Oh, yes.
And this update today, I started thinking, yes, we can use this to get feedback from clients that we work with. And I also thought perhaps we could set one up with 2 questions to help our students let us know what days best suit them for support sessions and what times, so that they just click on the day or days and suitable times.
Yep. Absolutely. And sorry, would you mind reminding me which institution you're with? GoTAFE, yes.
Yep.
Have a chat with Luke Felsen. He'll probably be your best point of contact.
He's my director.
Oh, fantastic. So next week on Monday, we have our next round of student experience questions launching for GoTAFE. This could definitely be something that we do. I mean, we could actually add the questions on now. If you want to have a chat with Luke, that won't take too long to add them onto existing questions. We can always ask those questions out of cycle, maybe once a semester, for example, as a way just to kind of update preferences as students change. And I'd say two multi-choice questions would be perfect. That way you'll quickly and easily see the preferences. You won't get a huge array of responses back. Yeah, absolutely. I think it'll be a useful use case for you.
I was actually thinking of this particular question as something we can send to new clients. Because quite often when I ask them via email what days and times best suit you, they don't understand me.
Yes. Yep.
But with careful wording, perhaps this will make it clear and they'll be able to just click on the days and times that suit their situation.
Yeah, exactly right. I think if you're presented with options, it kind of reduces the cognitive load and you just go, oh, cool. Thursdays and Fridays work best for me, and 1 and 4 p.m. And that way you're not thinking too hard about it. So yeah, by all means, I think this could be the first of a number of useful use cases for you, or ways just to kind of check in with students, even potentially for those students that do go through support services. Could be a potential avenue to explore in terms of if there's a way to follow up with them in a timely manner and get some feedback around the effectiveness or how supported they've felt after going through with your team.
What would work?
Yes.
Better?
Absolutely.
Yep.
But yeah, by all means, have a chat with Luke. And whether it's you or Luke, feel free to reach out and let me know what we'd like to do. And being Wednesday, if it does feel right to add those questions on for Monday, and we can definitely get that done for you.
Not a problem. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thanks
Nice
for joining.
evening.
Thanks,
You
Laura.
too.
Nice to meet you. See
Catch
you.
Nice to meet you too. Bye.
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 Cool. Actually, I don't think I can stop the
Stop
recording.
recording. Let me have a look. I think I can.